I was at UCLA Film School and was kind of on fire at the time. Directing 3 short films, director of photography of 5 films, including a couple of music videos, and I went into that eventually as a director, camera operator, and steeped in the work of Philip K. Dick and Jorge Luis Borges and William Burroughs. So I was very much an anti-system science fiction person. As my first screenplay, or second screenplay, I adapted Philip K. Dick's Paycheck, which was almost optioned. And I heard that a film package was being looked at by an executive at Universal, Ed Neumeyer. And Ed and I realized that we had similar ideas. I had been outlining at the time this idea called SuperCop about the study of robotics and the graphic novel. So each of us were very different. You never marry yourself. So the fact that we were very different people and also worked differently was very helpful right up front.
All Detroit has a cancer. The cancer is crime. And it must be cut out before we employ the 2 million workers that will breathe life into this city again.
Corporate gang link-up and picking Detroit as the setting are really bedrock for the story. Ed is responsible for picking Detroit, and his sense of the way Detroit did a first draft, which went to Columbia and I think Fox, and they both passed. We got it to John Davison, who gave it to Barbara Boyle, who was an executive at Orion. And Orion is built on the model of United Artists, which allowed producers and writers and actors to develop the material. They had 2 development executives and Mike Menavoy at the top. He greenlit Oliver Stone's war film Platoon and a number of other films, and allowed those scripts to be developed by the writers, the directors, and the producers. So Ed and I wrote a second draft, got a few notes from John Davison and Orion, and then wrote a third draft, which made its way to Paul. And he had just made Flesh and Blood for Orion. Ed and I went and saw it in Century City. Since Orion had done business with him, they sent him the script, and he threw it in the trash. And his wife, Martine, who was a psychotherapist, pulled it out of the trash and read it and said, "Paul, you should look at this again." He looked more closely at it and committed to the project, and that was really the hugest piece of luck. So we wrote a 4th draft for Paul, and he asked us to pull out the family, but we couldn't stop there. We couldn't dwell on that. We couldn't slow down. So they're very much, I don't want to say stereotypes, but tropes, Clarence in particular, and people love the vernacular. An interesting evolution. One of the goals for Ed and I was to take away his body, because we're going to turn him into a cyborg, a robotic creature. So losing the hand, the shot to the head, we wanted to communicate to the audience that he was dead. We wrote a very detailed description of how the gang, Clarence's gang, torture murders Murphy. Then Paul comes along. Being a young person during World War II, my theory is that European directors and African-American directors, Paul spent a long time shooting this thing, and for the kill shot to the head, Rob built a upper torso of Peter Weller that was powered by a bicycle, so that he rises up when he pedals, when the operator pedals, bang, and he's shot. Ed was really involved in the designing of the suit, and obviously Rob Bottin is a genius with that kind of stuff. Ed would bring in various conceptual artists to do drawings. The idea of this sleek, angled thing that felt like it could move fast, even though he was clunking around, with these forward angles and lines throughout the suit, was very important. And Ed was very, very dialed into that, much more than I was. It was fun for me, and I had a few suggestions, but it was primarily Ed and Rob. And Rob, I don't think gets enough credit as sort of the 5th wheel in the whole thing. Peter Weller consulted a very famous mime in order to get a lot of the movements right, so that he was more robotic. However, the name of Murphy and the flashback when he goes to the townhouse where he and his family lived, and the final pronouncement of Murphy for the audience was a kind of quest that was fulfilled for them. You hurt me, and then I personally respond because of of feelings, subjective feelings I have about the assault. Most people are aware of that kind of justice. They're less aware of the nature of objective violence. In thinking about it subsequently, we were successfully able to combine subjective and objective violence so that in his pursuit of vengeance over his torture murder, RoboCop discovered the corporate